Hey.
We witnessed a fight a few weeks ago, which became controversial, and the reason why it became controversial is because of the decision of the referee at the time. Ended up factoring in on the scoring of the bout, and because of that, a fighter um, that people feel that should have won did not win because of how things went down, which we're going to talk about, and that is the Tank Davis Roach fight.
Oh yeah.
And uh, during the course of the fight, I believe it was the ninth round. The fight was very, very intense. Blows were being thrown on both sides. Punches were landed on both sides, and going into the ninth round, from what I could view from watching the fight, not at the time it happened, but later on, that it was close. And all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, Tank Davis takes a knee. Now,
Should have been a knockdown, right?
which should have been a knockdown because, in the rule book, it states that anything other than the soles of your feet that touch the ground is deemed a knockdown. And the referee, Steve Willis, I believe his initial intent was to call it a knockdown because when you look at the videotape, you could see him start to count. But the one thing that I think may have threw Steve off was Tank goes to a knee, and then he gets up and he walks to his corner. Now I've had that happen to me before, fighter taking a knee, but he stays down and takes the full mandatory 8 count so that he can get his head right, even if he was fatiguing a little bit and wanted to get a little rest. But in this sense, Tank gets up, goes to his corner. He goes to one side of the pole on his corner, and then he goes to the other side, and his corner man reaches up and kind of pats his face as if something was, in his eye, which he claims that's what it was.
Now, I saw a clip of that fight, and I
Okay.
saw exactly the same thing you saw. And I'm saying to myself, because I would never be critical of another referee, but what I'm thinking is that there is no timeout in the game of boxing unless the referee or the commission calls it. And so essentially that's what that boiled down to.
Yeah.
And but there's a precedent.
Yeah.
There was a precedent for what occurred because what I understood from that fight was that Tank was saying there was something in his eye. He got something in his eye.
Right.
And that's the reason why he went over.
Right.
And the corner came up to wipe something out of his eye, which, between you and I, that should never have happened either.
Right.
But there was a precedent for that.
Yes.
Because if you go back, all the way back to Cassius Clay versus Sonny Liston 1,
Yes.
when there was some kind of substance on Liston's gloves that got in all these eyes,
Yes.
and he wanted them to stop the fight and quit and everything. And Angelo Dundee told him, go back out there and keep on sticking and move around.
Yes.
And we'll wash your eyes out when you come to the edge. So,
Yes.
and there's a precedent had been set for that kind of scenario. I don't know that the referee was thinking about that at that time, but, that's why it's important, I think, as officials, to understand the history of your game.
Yes, and not only the history of the game, to further act on what happened is after Tank's face was wiped off, Steve stepped in and then basically said to him, "Don't do that," because it could be ruled as a knockdown. Now you couldn't totally clear exactly what Steve was saying, but it was like a soft warning, or one could say a hard warning, don't do it again.
Mhm.
And then at that point, the fight continued, and the controversy that again I mentioned earlier was the fact that if Steve had have counted it a knockdown, that would have been a point deduction on Tank Davis's score, and two of the judges had the fight even, whereas if that 1 point deduction
Yeah.
had been added, to the
Uh-huh.
knockdown, then Tank would have lost the fight.
And the thing about as an official, you never ever want to be the reason for
Exactly.
the controversy
Exactly.
in the fight. So from that standpoint, because I think had the knockdown been called, there would have been no controversy at all. And to your point, that kid probably would have won the fight, and that would have given him an opportunity to make a lot more money in his next fight because he
Yes.
would have been going into it as a champion.